If there was a big flood like it says in the Bible in the book of Genesis, how could people forget such a major event? Apparently this flood lasted for like a year, covering the entire earth, killing everyone except 8 people that got on the ark. If this event really did occur, this would have been the most dramatic and catastrophic event that humankind has ever been through. If this event really did occur, shouldn't everyone be talking about it? Now, today, with coronavirus devastating the entire world, we must admit that this event is probably the most dramatic event of our lifetime. And we think that people in the future will certainly remember the year of 2020. Let's assume that we were able to conquer coronavirus within a year or two. So we develop a vaccine and effective methods to confine the virus. And then, say about 100 years pass by. Would the people in the year 2100 remember COVID-19? Yeah, sure they will, but from the history book. When those people hear the term coronavirus, will they have the same emotional responses and reflections as us? What I'm saying is, emotion fades over time. We forget things more easily than we think. I'm sure some of you have wondered if there were any pandemic more severe than coronavirus in history. And you may have already discovered that just about 100 years ago, there was a flu that killed tens of millions of people, around 3% of the entire world population at the time. But after just 100 years, we all kind of forgot about it. Today, we remember things much better than before thanks to digital media. You can quickly Google and find out about any event in the past if someone had written down records of it. But imagine if there were no digital media. What if there was no printing? What if there were no paper and pencil even? Then the only method to carry information would be the word of mouth. After Noah's flood, well, if we assume that it was real, Noah's family had kids and grandkids. The first generation probably talked about the flood every single day because that was the most dramatic event in their lives and they wanted their kids and grandkids to know about it. But after a few more generations, they were telling stories of it not from their own accounts but from their parents or grandparents, which of course carried less weight. And their kids started to get sick and tired of hearing about this story. The story of Noah's flood, aka God's punishment to the entire humankind, was starting to be forgotten. So we wondered how on earth people could not believe in God after events like Noah's flood. What about the parting of the Red Sea? What about Jesus feeding 5,000 men with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish? And the answer is simple. At first they did, but after just a few generations, people forgot. And the descendants of Noah probably started thinking that the flood was more of a myth because it sounded unbelievable. And this explains how there are surprisingly similar myths about a great flood in all these different cultures all around the world. Plus, in Chinese, the character for boat pictures a boat that's carrying 8 people. Are these all coincidence? Or perhaps are these proofs that we are in fact all descendants of Noah? So before calling the Bible a complete myth just because it is unbelievable and no one remembers it, maybe we should give a second thought. And the Bible says, as it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the second coming of Jesus Christ and the judgment day. One last thing to point out before we end is that when there were no good methods of writing or printing, or even no good school system, the only real source of information was from your parents. If your parents didn't tell you something, that something is lost for generations. Perhaps is this what the Bible was talking about when it said the jealous God would punish the children of the parents who hate God to the 3rd and 4th generation? The Bible says we are all descendants of Noah. Would it be a ridiculous joke to just laugh off? If I made you think, then maybe take this time to think it over.